You're listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast, a resource for the worship arts team at Grace Church.
Welcome to this month's episode of the GC Collaborative Podcast. Cast. We are so excited. I went full director mode
sure
on that.
Did, man.
Yeah,
You
I just cut everybody off. I was like,
in the air. Every time you do that, I'm going to stop talking right now.
yeah. Little known fact: I actually was in advanced conducting in college. I took advanced conducting.
Okay.
I took beginner level and advanced.
I was going to say, what? I don't know that I want to know. But, oh, wow, that is advanced.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you see how you stopped when I did it?
Yeah. I just wonder what intermediate conducting looks like.
Oh, you don't even know.
As compared to advanced.
Oh, it's a totally different ball game.
Okay, well.
It's the MLB versus AAA right there. I'll tell you that right now. I don't even know what those letters mean.
Yeah, well.
I heard a guy say it one time, so I thought I'd try it. Did it work? Was that the right context? I don't even know.
It was the right context.
Oh,
That's
thank
good.
goodness.
Yeah.
Whew, I'd hate to look like
it's like
a
minor
dummy.
Minor league to good minor league.
Oh, okay.
Baseball. We're talking
Awesome.
baseball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was thinking hockey. Anyways.
Anywho.
Welcome. We're so glad you're here with us this month. We got a few things just to keep everybody updated on, but after that, we are going to go into the podcast, and we're super excited because we got to sit down with two amazing people, Olivia Williamson and Taylor Sibala, and we just got to talk about being tired and leading sometimes in life, normal life, and that you don't always get up on a Sunday or a Saturday or any time to lead a congregation in worship, and you're not always just like, yay, I'm so excited to be here, if we're all really honest. And so we just kind of talked about how do you lead out of those places? How do you glorify God in those moments and worship the Lord? And what does that look like? And so it was just a really great conversation. Both of them are amazing. And it was just fun. Ben was there this time, so we got the bizdom, as I like to call it, the binsdom.
Right.
But what do you got for us, Ben? You got some.
Yeah, I do have some business to take care of. I do want to let everyone know, if you're, as you're listening to this, you may be listening from attending any one of our campuses. I'm going to give you all the decided Christmas service times.
No way.
Yes.
I don't. No way.
Listen, seriously.
Okay.
December 24th. These are our Christmas service
Oh,
times.
it's on the 24th this time. Okay.
Yeah, on the 24th. Christmas Eve is going to be on the 24th this
Wow.
year.
Okay. I was wondering.
So it's South Overland Park, 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. Okay? Olathe, 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m. North Overland Park, 3 p.m. and 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
There you go. So
there's a 5 p.m. at every location.
Yes, there is a 5 p.m.
and a 3 p.m.
a 3 p.m. and a 1. No, just a 3 and a 5 at each location.
3 and a 5.
So, yeah.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Start making your plans.
It's
and
happening.
Then that following weekend, we will not be having services in the buildings, but we're going to encourage families to worship online for the rebroadcast of the Christmas service online that weekend. So just like what we did last year, and it was a great success.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that as well.
I had a blast. I was watching the service in my jammies.
Okay.
My onesies. My jamsies.
You got big footy pajamas. Big footy pajamas. So as Luke mentioned, we do have a great podcast lined up for you. We appreciate Taylor and Olivia being a part of this. So check it out.
Welcome, everybody, to this month's edition of the GC Collaborative Podcast. We are so glad you are here with us today. As we said in the intro, we are sitting here with Taylor, Ben, myself, and Olivia, and we just couldn't be more excited. Just sit down, have a conversation. This one, we generally don't do anything we haven't done anything too crazy heavy, and this one's not super heavy, but it's a little bit more on the sleepy route, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not heavy at all. It's very sleepy.
So if you want to take a nap, as long as you're not driving and you want to listen to this,
I might recommend that if you're a person that struggles sleeping, maybe you need to push pause and then come back and listen to this as you're drifting to sleep or trying to.
Yeah, maybe could you actually just hum the whole time, like soothing sounds?
Okay.
Just like ocean sounds. Yeah, that'd be nice. Anyways,
We could do an ASMR.
Oh gosh. I don't think we want to get into that world. That's when it goes downhill quickly.
Listen.
my God. That's what happens when we record on a Friday. I like it. We need to do this more often. But anyways, we're sitting here with Taylor and Olivia, and yeah, just wanted to talk about a topic. Just kind of, what do you do when you're not... Sorry.
You just touched my knee.
Well, I was moving my hand.
This love seat's a little small.
Yeah, it is. We need to get a bigger. We need a budget for a bigger couch. But anyways, we're talking about what do you do when you're just not feeling it? So many times as worship leaders, life happens, and it can be just maybe family stuff's going crazy. Maybe you got young kids that you're trying to, keep going in life, and also a full-time job. Maybe you're traveling a lot and have a lot of stuff going on. Maybe you've been in the worship ministry for 20 plus years, and
I'm just tired.
Yeah. I'm always tired.
I'm just tired.
I'm just always tired. You're not supposed to be tired?
Just generally tired.
But anyways, before we get into that, why don't you, Taylor and Olivia, separately, give us a little bit about yourselves, like 30-second, 1 minute, this is who I am, high level, explain it. And Taylor, since I'm looking at you, we'll start with you.
Sure.
I know you love this.
Yeah, I love this. No. So my name's Taylor Sibala. I've been going to Grace now for about a decade, actually, which is interesting. It's gone by quickly. I'm a degreed engineer, and then practice kind of in project management and delivering design construction projects for a firm here in town, but have been engaged in some form of helping serve with worship since I've been going to Grace here since, I guess, 2011 it was. So yeah. So it's gone by quick, and I don't know, there's been a lot of growth and learning over that time, and we've got a family, and we've just gotten to see both growth in our family, but also within Grace Church, and it's been cool to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you travel a lot for your job, so
yeah. There's been seasons where I travel essentially 3 days a week for the entire year. Mm-hmm. There's been times when that's been true.
Because I've seen you travel, and then you come. Sometimes you're like plugging in to lead worship that following weekend, and it's a lot. So
there was a couple of years ago where almost every Thursday for rehearsal, I would actually drive straight from a project site 3 hours away directly to rehearsal.
Oh,
so
man.
My wife would help me out by having stuff ready and bring it to rehearsal for me. So.
Yeah. And Emily's awesome. She leads worship with you. She's awesome.
Yeah, so Emily's a worship leader.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal at it. She's much better at it in some ways than me. And then we've got three kids. We've got three little ones, so 5.5, 4, and 21 months. So it's definitely...
I thought you were going to say 21. I was like, whoa, where did that one come from?
Yeah, surprise.
He's actually 51.
Off next week.
He's 51.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew you looked young for your age, but not that young.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's awesome.
Happy to be here.
Very cool. Olivia, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't have any kids. I'm by myself except for Kyle.
I was going to say.
I just got married, so a lot of you guys know Kyle. I mean, you all know Kyle Williamson. Just got married this year and moved to Kansas City. Sorry, we're in Kansas. We're not in Kansas City. We're in Kansas. And I lead 2 national youth ministries. So I work with middle and high school students. One's a prayer ministry called Claim Your Campus, and it's all about getting students to pray in their schools, praying for change and wanting to see God move in their high school and middle schools. And then I lead a worship ministry, actually, for high school students. So it's called Enlightened Students. Some people here at Grace have been a part of it, so they've led some events in the past. But we help high school students gather and lead worship events for their high schools, just to bring people in to worship together. But my heart is that it would be student-led, student-focused, in order to bring change to our campuses. So that's what I get to do nationally, and I love being in the center of our country, living here, because I just get to go out and meet students everywhere. And yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
And where were you originally from?
I am from Michigan.
Okay.
Wasn't born there, but raised there my whole life. So
Whereabouts?
Grand Rapids, Michigan, like the west side of the state.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, and so you mentioned Kyle, and Kyle is the South Overland Park Students Director, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we love having you a part of the worship ministry and leading students. You do such a great job. So
thank you.
yeah.
I like it. Sorry, I have to like lean up really far. Yes, no, that's awesome, and we're so glad you guys are both here. And then Ben, obviously, we all know, has been a part of worship here at Grace and many years. And so, anyways, we're just excited to sit down and talk. So, that being said, let's dive into this. So, raise your hand so everybody can see if you've ever led worship tired before. Or worn out, or just not feeling it.
Down.
Yeah,
Taylor.
yeah. What?
I said, put your foot down.
Yeah,
Taylor.
put it down.
He's raising every hand.
I can only imagine with a 21-year-old and a couple kids. It's a lot. But no, just kind of what I want to just start with and see where we kind of go is maybe if you can think of a time where it was like, oh man, I was just at my wit's end, or just life was going crazy, and then all of a sudden I had to get up in front of a congregation or of people and lead worship. And if, kind of having to go through some sort of, how do I go about this? Like, how do I get myself to a place where I can actually lead? And or do you change anything, or is it now you just go out as you are? Because I find that some people kind of have different philosophies on it, which is awesome too. But I don't know if anybody's willing to go first on this one.
You're looking for a story of people, a time that you had to lead when you just don't feel like it, unmotivated.
Yeah. Just I don't,
tired.
Or maybe even if we're really honest, like I'd rather be anywhere else than right here, right now.
Gotcha.
Or maybe I'm the only one that's ever felt like that. I don't know. Maybe.
No, you're not alone. No.
But I don't know if anybody has a story that comes to mind when.
I imagine,
with that.
Olivia, you probably have some of that just because you travel a lot. For the ministries that you're a part of, that you lead.
Yeah.
I can imagine being on the road and then getting off, out of a van or your car and like, oh my gosh, I gotta lead worship now.
Yeah, I relate a lot to Taylor, what he was saying about like driving from one place to the next and showing up and leading worship, because I think that's been my life for a long time. I always feel like I'm running from one thing to the next, which for some reason worship leaders love to do that. We just love to be involved, which is great, and if this is what we're called to do, we love it. Obviously we have a passion, we're excited to be there, we want to do it, but there are days where you love the Lord, but you don't love playing those 3 chords over and over in a song. You're just like, man, I want to go take a nap, And so I feel that to a deep level. And I just want to give a quick shout out to anyone who's ever done student ministry, like leading worship for student ministry, and who's a leader or volunteer. Because on Wednesdays when we meet together for Grace students, that's probably where I feel it a lot, is in the middle of the week. Like you've had a long day at work and then you got to show up, lead with some middle and high schoolers and, work through all the mess of the day and the rehearsal and getting, practicing right up to the time the service starts, and you're just exhausted. So I can think of, days in the week where it's just in the middle of everything, and that's often how we can feel, is we, are just in the middle of all this stuff going on in our life. And then we stop for a moment of worship and we're like, man, I did not want to be here. But I found like those moments are actually really cool. And, and I've found even being so tired and just feeling like, man, I do not want to be here, those Wednesdays are always really amazing at the end of the day. But the beginning of the day is not super fun. But when you get to the end of it, you look back and you're like, man, this is amazing. And I think a lot of people at Grace students kind of feel that way. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something that's interesting is I've noticed over time that when I'm quote unquote like really feeling it, or like really encountering the Lord, doesn't necessarily seem to be totally related to how other people in the congregation are encountering the Lord. There's times when I'll be there out of a place of obligation or out of a place of sacrifice or service and am not feeling it. And then there's people that are just, the Lord just showed up that day and just did something with them and in their heart. And it's pretty interesting how it's just totally seems to be almost decoupled in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but...
Yes, I have.
It's always like,
Many times.
if they come in, they're like, hey, man, the Lord like was just really speaking to me today through this. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Really?
you're like,
Uh-huh.
that's awesome. It's amazing in that way. And and I personally, I'm a 3 from an Enneagram standpoint.
Me too.
Very,
Really?
yes.
Oh my
And so it's,
gosh.
so like one thing for me is if I don't feel prepared, I feel very uncomfortable. And so like I've noticed a lot of times, there have been times when I don't feel like it's all together or technically where it should be going into it. It just makes me really uncomfortable. And it kind of forces me into a place of more faith in leading worship, and especially when it seems like the Lord really shows up and moves in our congregation on those times. It's like, wow, this really, really is not about us.
Yeah. Oh,
You know.
absolutely.
It just helps reinforce that.
Absolutely.
What if I could interrupt for just a second, Luke, I know you're about ready to ask a question.
No, I was really drawing a blank. I was like,
okay,
man.
good.
I was just watching Taylor take scrupulous notes over there, and I was wondering what he was writing, and then I just got lost.
He's
in
waiting
that.
for a big moment.
It's actually a sketch of your face.
Oh no! You can draw too.
So I'm curious, like for both of you, how important is it? Like, we know we're going to be tired. We know that we're going to have fatigue and it's going to hit, or we're going to have those modes where we're not feeling it necessarily. How do you, knowing that, how important and how do you prepare for these types of moments? You know what I mean? So it's not that you're not sitting down and preparing for necessarily for a specific weekend that you know you're going to be tired on. Sometimes it just happens, but there's got to be something within you guys as leaders, as worship leaders, that you guys kind of use as your core, as your center for approaching, or when you get hit with a weekend like that. How important is that? What do? You have a process at all, or?
Yeah, so I would say my base process for leading worship in general is starting in kind of the, quote unquote, the secret place where it's even kind of the Lord on your own, and you get up and lead people to a place that you've already been, essentially. But that doesn't always happen, especially if you haven't had time to prepare, you've been traveling, or you're really tired and you're just not feeling it. So a lot of times just knowing that worship and feelings are inherently not the same thing. That it's just like my feelings for my wife. Like, I have feelings that range wildly. I'm married to my wife now for say 8 years, and so we have good days, we have bad days. Our feelings are seem to swing across a big spectrum, but like my love for her is not necessarily changing. Like, good days I have love for her, bad days I have love for her, and I think the same is true with leading worship, that when you recognize that they're not inherently connected or that they are decoupled, that helps you get to a place where you can really just be as prepared as you can and do everything you can to not be a barrier to other people's worship. Just serve your congregation, view it as a way that we're all directing everybody to worship the Lord, and not make it so dependent on feeling or on performance.
That's good.
Yeah, I would really agree. I think the best worship leaders are serving and leading out of that secret place. Like, you have to have that in your life if you're going to be able to function and be tired, like to move forward. It really matters what's going on behind the scenes. And great analogy, I was at a worship night last night, and the worship leader said, what you see up here is only because of what happens in the unseen. Like, what is seen is poured into by what is unseen. And I think that has to be true for us, because we prepare even when we're not really thinking about the worship set. We prepare before we even get in that mindset of how to lead a band, or how to show up and start this song, or how to make sure the tracks are all together. Like, before we ever prepare for that, we prepare every day to lead worship, because we know it's not just music. We know it's not just this one time. Like, worship is that action of love, like you talked about. And I'm newly married, and I'm seeing that too. Like, man, love is not a feeling. Like, you really have to live it out, and it is a choice, and so choosing to show up to worship is awesome when we're not feeling it, and then your times in that secret place will pour out into that. I've seen in my own life that is my like strength. Even if I feel like my, gas tank is really close to empty that day, it's like, man, the Holy Spirit just fills me up, and he pours out what has already been invested in the past, in my time with him.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Just the idea that it's just always, you're always preparing that way. Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. So do you guys have a specific story of a moment that you've had to lead, or like what has the result been of having to lead from a place that's not, not your A game, air quotes?
So I can't think of a specific time from being tired. I know it's happened many, many times. I would say it's the usual, if you will. I'm usually tired. There was a time that I actually came down with food poisoning. In the 20 minutes leading up to the worship.
Wow.
And ended up leading through that whole time. And it was like so much of my focus was on not getting sick.
Were your legs crossed the whole time?
No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, it was, wanting to come. Anyway, so.
That's usually how I can tell worship leaders on stage and something's hit them.
Yeah. So.
Legs crossed. Yeah.
So no, there was a time there where, again, it just is. There actually, I believe there's a technical part to it as well. So it's drawing from your worship experience, but also just like driving doesn't take. When you first step into a car and you're driving and doing driver's ed for the first time, it takes a lot of concentration to do. But when you become technically, adept at it, if you take that part seriously and working on your craft in that way, it can be a thing that becomes more, back burner, is more automatic. And so it allows you to rely on that for multiple areas. For one, it makes you, I think, more capable of leading well, just because you're not having to focus on it. You can actually focus on just leading and being there to worship with your congregation. But in times, I think, when you're tired or sick or whatever it is, you can kind of lean on technical parts as well, that primarily to just not be a barrier, and just still serve in that way.
Yeah. So you'd say it's probably pretty important for people to practice their skill and their craft on their instrument, their voice, and that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know what percentage. Like, I don't know the real math, but I would say probably 80% of worship leadership, maybe 70 to 80, is like mental. Like, there's so much just like when I'm done with a weekend, like you're talking about students. I remember when I would lead students regularly, I'd be like, afterwards, I'm so mentally just exhausted because there's so many factors that go into it. And a lot of times you explain that to people and they're like, well, you were just standing in one place for like 2 hours. Why are you so tired? Yeah. There's so much mental energy that is spent, and you don't realize it until you're just done. It's like, oh my gosh. So having the importance of having your skill honed and those kinds of things helps in those scenarios a lot. So do you have a...
Well, that made me think of a story. I didn't have food poisoning. I was leading worship at a camp. I was another vocalist on this worship team, and I got the flu on the drive out there. It was terrible. And for some reason, the tech team was so mean to me, and they did this like crazy strobe light show, and I almost passed out. I remember being like, I do not want to be here. You guys are so mean. I can't see. I feel terrible. But we just like got through every set, and then I would just leave and go lay down. I couldn't get up until the next worship set. Like, that was crazy. And that was by the grace of God I was able to even stand. But I think recently our 20s, 30s prayer nights and worship nights for young adults.
But when are those? That's a good plug.
Oh, yes. First Friday, most of the time of every month. Sometimes we've had to reschedule. At South. Campus? Yes, at South. 20s, 30s starts at 7. I'm pretty sure it starts at 7. I think it starts at 7 Central. Yeah, not Eastern. Don't mix it up. So we meet, once a month, and that's an awesome time of worship and prayer. It's really powerful. And so I lead most of the time for that night, and there have been just nights, because it's the same. It's like, middle of the week, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes end of the week, you're just like, man, I just want to rest. I just want to go home and just turn on my TV and eat dinner and go to bed. And those nights, I remember a few weeks ago, was really tough. And I think just also life was happening, because that's what we need to all realize too, is like worship leaders also have life going on too. And so, yeah, they're standing up there on stage and they look really excited to be there, but there's a lot pouring into their presence that day. And so I think there was just a lot going on one Friday. Show up, didn't want to be there. Rehearsal was like, all right, but not what you want it to be sometimes, because don't you just love it when rehearsal doesn't go how you expect it to go? And it's like, man, how's this service gonna go? And God showed up.
Works.
It was incredible. Like, but he was really ministering to me that night, and that was the incredible thing, is even when I show up and I don't want to be there, God wants to be there. He wants to meet us, even when we don't always feel it. And I was so blessed and filled up that night. And I walked away like, why did I ever not want to be here? Like, that was amazing, So I for sure had those times, and God's always met me in it.
Yeah. So the topic isn't necessarily just fatigue, right? It's distracted and those kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, we can go anywhere.
Well, let me tell you a story.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is I want to make sure if I tell this story that I use it in the proper context. Otherwise, I'm going to save it for later. So I'll just tell it.
We can go anywhere.
Yeah, okay.
It's meant to just go wherever we want. Just
So
like a conversation.
We can't stop now.
Yeah,
so
Just like a conversation.
So one of the things with what we're trying to do for our campuses and our worship directors, my hope and my goal is to, as much as we can, free up the worship leaders to not have to deal with a lot of the stuff that that happens on a technical side, on a production side. So the hope is that they're able to get all of that stuff done by Thursday, right, on a weekly rhythm type scenario, so that Sunday they're coming in, they don't have to think about that stuff, because the desire, we want our worship leaders to just be disconnected from that so they can lead the church, right? Mm-hmm. So we've made some great strides this year in trying to accomplish that, to free up our directors from those kinds of burdens. But I will go back. I'm going to go rewind all the way back to a long time ago, like when we were meeting at a school, and we didn't have a production team, on staff or any of that kind of stuff for programming and any of that. So I'm leading worship on a weekend. This is like 2005. I remember it vividly. So we'd come in, and I have walkie-talkie, got the little headset on, and I've got some volunteers that are doing lights. I got a volunteer leader for the lights. I got an audio guy and a media person. And so I go into the bathroom, and I've got the headset on, and I'm in. Do you know this story?
No,
Okay.
but I can only imagine where it's
It's
going.
making me nervous.
So I'm in the bathroom, and just we're done with the sound check, and so we got some time, about 30 minutes before we have to huddle up to walk through the service with Tim, and all of a sudden I get a call from somebody who is our media leader. He goes. He's got a real shaky voice. He's like, Ben, I'm going to need you to come out here right now because me and the lighting guy we're going to take this to the parking lot. We're going to fight. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? I'm just trying to go to the bathroom, right? What is happening? And so I go out there, and these two guys they were fighting about, they had a severe disagreement about something media-wise versus what the lighting cues were going to be. And someone was, trying to tell the other person what to do, and the other person didn't like that. And so it was then that I realized, it was like all of a sudden the world stopped, and you hear this voice like in a movie. It was then that Ben realized that that it was time to invest more energy towards helping facilitate a way for him to be disconnected from those types of things on a weekend, right? So anyway, they ended up not fighting, getting physical, but it was not pretty. But I just remember that morning, I'm like, I got to lead worship in like 10 minutes. Like, knowing that the two guys sitting in that back of that room are wanting to punch each other out. And I'm like,
wow.
And this is for church? You know what I mean? I'm like, something's wrong, something's off. But that story to me points to like what you both were saying about how important it is to be in the quiet place, the secret place, to spend time with God. And I say this to we're talking about our positions on the stage as worship leaders, but I think it's so important for every person that's a part of assembling and crafting a service that's pointing people to Christ, that everybody kind of views their role in that same regard, in that same way. And I know there's people that listen to these conversations that are part of our production teams and that kind of thing. So it's so important for them to approach their position as being someone who's actually leading worship in a sense, right? They're not, staying on a stage, but they are an important aspect of what goes on a weekend. Otherwise, it's just, you're going to want to wind up punching each other out sometimes, and you don't if you're not doing this for the right reasons. And so anyway, it was at that moment I realized we've got to come up with a better plan. So that was one of my stories. So
It's a great story.
I honestly thought that was going a different direction when you were in the bathroom. I'm going to be really honest.
Oh, really? Oh,
You had a microphone,
Yeah,
you're in the
you said you had a
bathroom.
microphone.
I was like,
oh no, yeah, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't a microphone. It was a walkie-talkie. Is what I meant, right?
walkie-talkie.
Yeah,
well, still,
so,
a lot can happen.
Right, that's true. No. Nothing like that.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
Well, I have another question that I just want to throw out there is, so we've talked about, obviously, okay, leading when you're tired, leading when you're worn out. What does that mean? How do you go about that? Has there ever been a time, because I think this is also an important question to deal with this, has there ever been a time where you realize it's not just a matter of like leading tired, it's a matter of like, I need to stop, or I need to slow down, or I need to take a break, and actually like, well, one, have you done that? Or two, have you just kept going and then reached burnout or something of that nature? And has that ever happened? Because I think that's always a hard one for me is, when is it like, oh no, you just need to press through, like you're tired, you're worn out, but God's going to meet you there, versus no, you're going too hard, and if you keep going, you're going to burn out, and I wonder, have you guys ever hit that spot or been in a situation like that, and or what did you do if and when that happened?
Yeah, I would say I'm really bad at saying no. And so it's so easy for me to reach that point where I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I'm saying yes to too many things. And I think a lot of us can struggle with that. What I've found that's really helped me through that, I personally, Taylor, you might be amazing at this, at saying no and taking a break. I'm like awful at it. I need to get better. This is a wake-up call for me. But it's like when I get to those spots, I really try to be in spaces where I can also be led in worship. And I think that really helps me a lot, and it really like fills me up. I just went to a night of worship last night, and I just loved being in a room with all these people and standing in a seat and like being led. And it was, God just ministered to me, and I felt like I was just able to focus on the Lord. And yes, I love looking around the room, because as a worship leader, I think that's the coolest thing. You just get to see what's happening in the room. So I was looking around, but I was like, man, this is cool, because I get to like just be led right now. And I think that poured into me more than I realized. And I was like, man, I want to be in those spaces whenever I can to be led, and to just be there as another person, like in this room, a part of it, and be filled up a little bit. And I think that helps me, move forward when I feel that burnout. And I would just encourage every worship leader, everyone who's serving a lot, like have those moments where you can be led too, because it really does more than we can really put into words. It was just awesome for me.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word right there.
That was real nice.
Yeah, so I've definitely struggled with saying no in the past too. I do think I've gotten a lot better about it, especially since having kids. It's just gotten more, I don't know, it's just, you have to a degree. Also viewing it as a way that, like, if you're going to be effective in leading well, being a good husband, a good father, a good employee for your work. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're all balancing, and sometimes saying no is what helps you be effective kind of in all areas of your life. So saying no was one thing that specifically I learned, have been learning, and been more intentional about. Another is being intentional about how you pour into your team and pouring into even the congregation in a way, and like helping guide them to learn to worship so that it shouldn't feel like you're pulling the ship alone. Like some of the best times of where I was the worship leader were times where the congregation was just really engaged, or it was like a house worship thing where you were just part of the congregation. Those are like the most special times I think I've had in a worship leadership role. So kind of taking the time to help coach people in how to worship the Lord during service. My wife and I used to do like a Facebook Live sort of worship ministry thing that we're talking about restarting. But the heart behind that was actually to help our congregation continue to worship throughout the week, so that they would again grow in that, learn how to worship on their own, and that they would be more equipped, have more opportunities to just like slow down and worship the Lord at home and throughout the week, and not let it just be a Sunday thing. So I think that, and just meeting with your team, pouring into them, it makes it so that, it really reminds me of the whole Antioch mentality that we have here where T is team leadership, and they talk about there's a team leader, a point lead, and I kind of view the worship leader sort of as that. It's not really like the outright leader of worship. It's a point lead that's really just helping orchestrate with the other people that are in some form or fashion leading as well. So I think that's a way is pour into others.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, that's good. The thing I think about too is like just being tired is, I think sometimes we can wear ourselves out because we do feel like we have to pull the ship alone. And I think that's a really good point of, I know in my life back in the day, it was that feeling of like, I've got to do all of this, even just with a team. I'm the leader. I have to, make all the decisions. But I think there is something very special about, it takes vulnerability and faith and trust, but it's that, letting people into that struggle or that tension and inviting them to help make those decisions, and to realize, you don't have to do it all on your own. And I think sometimes as artists, we can be those like lone wolves a little bit, where it's like, oh, I got to do this all myself. And I think the greatest lesson I've ever learned is you don't,
Yeah.
And whether it's just with the worship team or the church in general, just letting people into those situations and communicating well too. I think that's something too, is just communicating well with your team, communicating well with the congregation, like you're saying, leading worship, because I think those things can wear you out if you feel like you're on an island, or you're just like, that's what makes that feeling of isolation, I think, which then can lead to wearing yourself out, being burned out, because you just feel like it's you against the world, which is never a fun place to be by any means. What about you, Ben? You have led worship for 25 years. What is it now? Say it.
45 years.
45.
45. I mean, so when I was 2, I started when I was
Since the day I was born, with a guitar in my hand. Just
my poor
leading.
mother.
Yeah. But yeah, any just wisdom stories of, brink of burnout, or maybe even just getting burned out.
I mean, I think the thing that I learned in leading people that were on our team that would tell me they didn't need a break, and they would say, this is my ministry, this is my rest, I have to do this. Anytime I hear that, I'm like, okay, you need a break more than you realize, because it's not your ministry. And if you don't, you kind of have to help your team understand the importance of rest. And if they don't, you're just going to have to give it to them. And I mean, give them a weekend off, not give it to them. You're gonna have to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
We're headed to the parking lot.
Yeah, right. We're going to the parking lot. I'm taking it outside. You're gonna rest.
And who was really in that fight?
Yeah, right. But it's important for people. It's best if people can realize the importance of rest before they need it, and just working into the rhythm of their life that they need to take a break. If it's once a month, great. If it's once, twice a quarter, whatever that looks like for you. I think that's important to do it before you realize you need it. And then for worship leaders and for churches to be flexible on weekends if the teams are struggling and they need it. The last thing you want is, a lot of skill on the stage and everybody's just frustrated, angry, or tired, and they're not really leading worship, they're performing, right? Mm-hmm. So here, at Grace, we try to provide the flexibility of, okay, you know what, this weekend, because the team is either, they're too busy, or they need rest, or people just aren't available. You know what? There's nothing wrong with leading worship with an acoustic guitar from the stage. I mean, God will be worshipped whether there's, a full band or haze and lights flashing or spinning or whatever, So I just think it's important. It's important for us to work rest into the rhythm of our life, because if we don't, you're just going to get burnt out and you're going to hate what you do, and you won't even see it coming until it's too late. So,
whew, true words have never been spoken. That's for sure. I had a really great thought, and then you said that, and it just disrupted everything, because I was like, man, it's so true with burnout. You don't see it until it's too late. But I think that is, like, especially as worship leaders, that's what I was going to say. Because as America can be a very, like, you go, you hustle. And if you slow down, you get left behind. And so I think that's one thing. As churches, like, we do have to minister to people because that can be brought into the worship world or the church world is, same kind of thing. You got to go. And if you're not, you're going to be left behind. And I think it is just teaching people, like, hey, it's healthy to rest. And I think what Olivia said earlier about just being led in worship by other people, I completely agree, is such a... I think that is a necessity as a worship leader, is to make sure you are being led by others at times and not feeling like you have to be the authority in the room all the time, which I think can be a struggle for some people because, once again, we as humans and possibly Americans, it can feel like I've always got to be the alpha person, whether that's male or female. And so it's I think finding that humility to step back and say, I don't have to lead all the time. And there's actually a real beauty in watching somebody else do what God's created him to do and allowing God to minister, through that in your own soul. So I couldn't agree more with that.
Good stuff. So let me ask this as we're getting ready to wrap up. If you could say, what would be the final thing that you might say to somebody with regard to this issue, or some encouragement or advice that you might give?
I think this conversation is just really spoken to me personally. My biggest takeaway is, like, it's not just on me. It's not just on you. Like, you're not doing this alone. And that might often be what's pouring into our burnout, is feeling like we have to be at everything and we have to do it all and we have to carry it on our shoulders. But when I think about how beautiful worship is, like, we're invited into worship even by God. Like, it starts with him inviting us to this place. And so when we get here, I think that mindset of, it's not on me, it's not on my shoulders, this is an offering to the Lord. I have people beside me, but I also have the Holy Spirit of God with me, in me, moving in this service and moving through whatever is happening on this stage. Like, he will be the one that's seen, not me. He will be the one that's going to change hearts, not me. And so my biggest takeaway, and I hope everyone that's listening can just take this, like, it's humbling, but it's also freeing. It's not on you. It's not on me. It's not on any of us in this room, because we carry it together as a team, but we also carry what the Holy Spirit's already doing with him, and he's working.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for me, probably that worship's not about us. We live in a culture where everything is constantly about the individual. Music is all about emotion, and the emotional side of music can be very powerful. It can aid in worship at times, but it's not the worship itself. And there's a verse somewhere, I think in Hebrews, that talks about offering a sacrifice of praise. And so this specifically using the language sacrifice, that at times it's kind of implying loss, so that you're doing things that maybe aren't easy at that time. And I think it's important that we understand that sometimes it's going to be a sacrifice, and that praising the Lord and worshiping the Lord doesn't happen from a place of feeling. It happens from a place of faith. And that sometimes you have to speak that truth. You have to speak what you know to be biblical and true about God, even when you don't feel it. Yeah. And that it helps you get there.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's Hebrews 13:15. Yeah, which is a great verse.
Wow, did you know that from just your memory?
No, I just looked it up on my phone.
What is it?
Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess His name. So yeah, it's good, man. It's a good scripture. Love it. So you guys are awesome. I appreciate you both coming in.
No. You gotta tell yours too. What's your takeaway?
I did. I think what I said earlier, I would classify as you gotta find rest. You gotta plan. It's best to plan. You gotta plan for the moments that you're going to be tired, you know what I mean? And because it's going to come. So you have to build that into the rhythm of your life to kind of be prepared for that stuff, and intentionally take breaks so that you don't lead from a place of frustration or anger or weakness as much as possible. I mean, it's going to come, it's going to happen, but just like you said, it's not about you. So
it's the rhythm of life.
Yeah.
I think there's a song about that.
It's Circle of Life.
Circle of Life.
Damn it. Should have been rhythm.
Yeah. Great. Now we're going to have to pay Disney for this. Thank you.
Actually, it's under 7 seconds. We're fine.
Nikki's going to come in here.
I heard you guys singing about me. I want my $2 now. Anyways, it's getting out of hand. We'll just cut this out later. Who are we kidding? We're not going to do that. Anyways, but seriously, thank you guys so much for joining us today. It has been awesome. And I think it's just a good conversation. And hopefully, if you are feeling tired or burnt out, please reach out to somebody you know and love, and don't feel like you have to walk alone in that. And get yourself into spaces where you can just worship and not have to lead or whatever that looks like for you personally. So
I would say this: if there's worship leaders or people who are part of worship ministry that are catching this podcast that aren't a part of the Grace Ministry, and you need to talk to somebody, feel free to contact us. You can just
absolutely
fill out a form on our website, visitgracechurch.com, and just get in touch with us. Ask for Luke or Ben. We're always happy to talk to people, and I'll give you his cell phone number. So you can text him anytime. But seriously, if you need somebody to talk to, let us know.
Oh, absolutely. Because I do think we'll end here, but I do think that we forget about that, being surrounded by, luckily, and being blessed by the fact that we are around so many worship leaders and people. Just even in our church, I know has been a huge blessing to me. And sometimes I think about, it's hard when you're at a church by yourself or any of that stuff. So seriously. If you need anything, let us know. So, thank you guys so much for being here. Any last words?
Nah, brah.
Nah, brah. All right. Thank you guys for listening.
Hey, thank you guys so much for wait, let's start over. Sorry, I couldn't tell what you're doing.
Don't acknowledge my counting. Don't even worry about it.
I was
counting you down.
I didn't see your hand.
No. I was counting you down, and you just kept. Nope.
5, 4, 3. Why does your voice sound so weird, Luke?
I'm keeping all of this in, just so you know. I'm not editing it.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Olivia and Taylor, for being a part of the show. Appreciate your insights. They were great. So please, we encourage you guys to go follow them on their social media. I don't think Taylor's really on there, but Olivia is. She's very active.
She is very active on social media.
And then don't forget, we're on social media. We're not very active either, because Luke sometimes forgets to post stuff on the GC Collaborative Instagram.
I'm only one man, Ben.
Yeah, that's true. But you are a man.
No.
So GC Collaborative. We're on the YouTubes. We're on the Instagrams. We're on the iTunes and the Spotifys, all that stuff. So tell your friends, follow. And then the last thing, Luke.
Oh, is it that time already?
I think so, unless there's anything else.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, let me... wasn't ready.
Make it good.
So taken off guard. As always, if you have a Planning Center account with us and there is a yellow question mark near any of your requests, please just accept or decline because it always saves time. For the volunteer, for you, and as we always say, there's nothing worse than getting a call on a Friday saying so-and-so could not make it. Can
You're making this
do
really
it?
long, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's try it again. Here, I'll cut that out. Yes, thanks, Ben. All I ask is that you accept or decline if you have a question mark next to your name on Planning Center. Blessings. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the GC Collaborative Podcast. If you have any questions or would like more information, check us out at visitgracechurch.com.